All right, so I'm going to continue on where I left off. I think I forgot to do part D. And part D basically asks us to write, use function notation to write g in terms of f. Okay, so g of x, right, in terms of f. All right, so I look back at my comparison, right? There's a vertical shrink or compression by a factor of 1/2. And so that's your a value. And there's also a reflection across the x-axis. So my a value is going to be negative. So I'm going to write a negative 1/2 over here. And then for the inside, right, I shift it 3 units to the right. So that means it's going to be x minus 3. And then 1 unit up, so plus 1 over here. And that's it. And so this really just looks like your original function g of x without the cubic, okay? Because f of x is already x cubed. That takes care of that. All right, so there's part D. Now, on number 9, what I want you guys to do is to try this, okay? So again, pause the video, however long it takes you to do the problem, and then unpause it so that way you can see if you actually understand the problem. All right, so hopefully the first thing you guys did before even attempting this problem is I'm going to rewrite this as negative x plus 3 minus 1. And g of x is 2. I don't like this negative in front here. I'm going to factor it out. So kind of like similar to the previous example, I believe it was example number 1 on problem number 4. Okay. All right, so you didn't need to do that for part A, right? Part A, hopefully you identified that the parent function is just the square root of x. And then part B, you can, because this is in general form, you can see what, how is it different from this parent function f of x, right? So absolute value of a is greater than 1, vertical stretch, factor of 2. On a quiz or test, I want you to justify it just like I did here, okay? Notice there's a negative inside the square root symbol, right? B is less than 0, so it's reflection over the y. And last but not least, 3 units to the right and 1 unit down. Okay, so if you wrote all 3 of these different transformations, or I guess you can call it 4, depending on if you want to include 3 to the right, 1 unit down as an extra one, then you did it correctly. Okay, so moving on part C, we're supposed to track the points and actually sketch it. So for my original graph, I'm just going to use 2 points, okay, instead of 1. Sometimes using 1 point is not sufficient. So 0, 0 is my starting point in my square root function, right? And I'm just going to use 4, 2. All right, so what do we do with the x values? What do we do with the y values? That is the next question. Here's x, and my new function is called g. Well, for the x values, right, because there's a negative inside, I need to divide by negative 1. And then I'm shifting it 3 units to the right, so I'm going to add 3. And then for the y values, you look on the outside, right? Over here, I have a 2 and I have a negative 1. The 2 is being multiplied, so multiply by negative 2, or sorry, multiply by positive 2. And then subtract 1. All right, so those rules all came from the notes I gave you on while we're still live in lecture, okay? All right, so if you do the operations, you should get the correct coordinates for g, all right? So x value, if I divide by negative 1, x value of 0, divide by negative 1, I'm going to get 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. 4 divided by negative 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. Okay, for the y value of 0, 0 multiplied by 2 is 0. 0 subtract 1 is negative 1. And 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. Okay, so this is what your graph of g is going to look like. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 3 comma negative 1 is my starting point. 3 comma negative 1. And then negative 1 comma 3 is where it's going to go to, right? Negative 1 comma 3. Okay, so roughly, right, your graph's going to look something like this. check that. Okay, so let's use this as a teaching moment. I'm not quite sure how to curve it, right? Do I curve it this way or do I curve it this way? And the way I'm going to deduce that is I'm going to use another point. Okay, so if you're not quite sure, let's use one more point. Let's use 9, 3. All right, so 9, 3. Hopefully we'll get a better picture of what this looks like. All right, so if I do 9 and divide by -1, I'm going to get -9 plus 3 is -6. And then let's see, for 3, if I multiply by 2, I'm going to get 6. 6 subtract 1 is 5. So -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Comma 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to look something like that, right? So actually, right now I know it's going to roughly look something like that, okay? And so even I was confused because I didn't have enough points. I was like, does it curve this way, like this, or does it curve this way? And because I plotted an extra point, that enabled me to figure out, how do I actually curve it, all right?